13th International Research Conference of KDU Sri Lanka. Holistic approach to national growth and security.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
We warmly welcome you to the inaugural session of the 13th International Research Conference of General Sir John Kothalaval Defence University.
Since the beginning of mankind, human survival have been heavily dependent on evolution. From the ancient technology to the modern day advancements, mankind has climbed up the steps of evolution to finally reach a global village where we all are connected as one.
Through generations of striding forward to reach the heights of technological excellence, mankind has faced inevitable conflicts. War, economic crisis, and environmental issues have left us bruised and scarred. Through these tough times, we stand up together to find solutions to answers and questions and converse the future of our world to the best of our abilities.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 13th International Research Conference of General Sir John Kothalaval Defence University. Intellectuals and scholars of both local and international backgrounds will add their knowledge and their findings to address the issues of our generation using virtual platforms as we are connected despite the restrictions caused by the global pandemic of COVID-19. Foreign and local delegates will be presenting their research findings under the theme of Holistic Approach to National Growth and Security.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the KDU anthem.
They fought and fell for the belief of a better day. They shed blood, sweat, and tears to see us stand on the very soil they fought on.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand in silence for 2 minutes to commemorate our fallen war heroes.
Thank you.
Ev- Every special occasion in our culture is graced by the auspicious tradition of lighting the oil lamp.
Therefore, being a part of the cultural heritage of our nation, let us stand in pride as we demarcate the inauguration of this glorious event. For the lighting of the traditional oil lamp, may we now cordially invite Honorable Professor G.L. Pires, Minister of Education,
Professor Kapila Pereira, Secretary to the Ministry of Education,
Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolumbage, Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs,
Major General Milinda Pires, the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotalavala Defense University,
and Dr. Pradeep Kalansurya, the Conference Chair for the International Research Conference 2020. Thank you, sir.
Dancing is a language. Movements are its words. Rhythm is its identity. Such movement and rhythm helps people speak volumes that no words can describe.
Dance is the art of expressing emotions through movement to rhythm. The rhythm represents its own culture and identity. Throughout the cultural activities of our history, the traditional puja dance has been a significant element in any event.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the stunning dancing troupe of KDU officer cadets and day scholars.
मृदंग मेरी वृषभंच नागं तत्त्ववादं विजयी केशरी मकरं පතාකංච ප්‍රදීප වාස්ටකං ඕනාස්ටකං සර්ව සුරාෂ්ට මංගලං
ගණපති දෙති නුවණ මිල්කත් රකිති මෙදෑරණ දෙන්නේ මට නුවණ අසම් දෙවියනි දේව සුභ ගණ ආයුබෝ වේවා කලසෙත් මුදුන් වේවා දෝෂ දුරු වේවා සක්‍ර මහ බහු ආයුබෝවා
Cucunde gata cucutaca jen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give another round of applause for that mesmerizing performance by the dancing troupe of KD officer cadets and day scholars.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would now humbly invite Major General Milind Peres, RWP, RSP, USP, VSV, NDC, PSC, the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotalavala Defence University, to welcome the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Honorable Minister of Education, Professor G.L. Peres, Keynote Speaker, Secretary to the Ministry of Education, Professor Kapila Pereira, Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolumbage, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Defense and Administration, Brigadier Nanda Hathur Singh, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, Professor Jayantha Ariratna, Deans of Faculties, Directors of Centers, Academics, Senior Military Officers, Administrative Staff, students, and all distinguished guests who are connected with us in the cyberspace. Good morning to all of you. First and foremost, let me warmly welcome our chief guest, Professor G.L. Peres, Minister of Education, for kindly accepting our invitation and for gracing this occasion as the chief guest of this inaugural session of our International Research Conference, KDU 2020. Sir, we consider your presence here this morning as one of the most renowned and erudite scholars the country have ever produced in the field of law as a great honor to Kotalavala Defence University. You have been with us always to support us and witness the progress made by KDU. Your contribution to the KDU is much appreciated. Let me also warmly welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Kapila Pereira, Secretary to the Ministry of Education and former Vice Chancellor Moratua, who is having a very close affinity with KDU as an illustrious member of our Alumni Association, being Officer Cadet of Intake 2 KDA then, and your contribution towards the development of a university as a former Director of Academics of KDU is much appreciated and acknowledged. Then I also welcome Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolumbage, Secretary to the Foreign Affairs and former Commander of the Navy. His name goes in the history of KDU as the first PhD holder, and your contribution towards KDU always is much appreciated, sir. I warmly welcome our invited distinguished participants of the first defense plenary session. They are all joining us online. Air Marshal Dipendu Chowdhury, AVSM, VSM Commandant NDC, India, that is National Defense College, India. Professor Rohan Gunratna, Professor of Security Studies, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. Major General Asif Ali, Director General ISRA, Pakistan, and Director General National Defense University, Pakistan. Dr. Rong Ying, Vice President, CIIS, China. Major General M. Tahir, Comsat University, Pakistan. And Major General retired Dr. Sahid Ahmad Asmat, former Pakistan High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, and Major General Ruan Vanigasuriya is available, VSV, USP, NDU, USA, CG, SC, Commandant Sri Lanka Volunteer Force. I also welcome other distinguished guests and invitees participating online as well. KDU from its inception was instrumental in handing down the core values of security to the development paradigm in Sri Lanka. This year's theme, Holistic Approach to National Growth and Security, highlights the importance of maintaining harmonious blend in security and development in all national projects in Sri Lanka. We all know the importance of establishing an effective security network for sustainable development, and security goes hand in hand. As you are aware, this year's conference is taking place amidst very challenging circumstances. So much so that it becomes a landmark event of KDU in terms of its resolution to ensure the continuity of events at KDU even under most trying circumstances. And this conference is also significant because the year 2020 marks the 40 years of existence of KDU, and since its inception in 1980, and this is the 13th consecutive year of the KDU IRC. I could still remember Professor Kapila initiated this in KDU, and I was fortunate to be there as the Vice Chancellor to be understudying the then Vice Chancellor in 2008 December. KDU initially established as a tri-service academy known as the KDA, the Kothalaula Defense Academy then, marked the significant diversion in 2007 with the renaming of KDA then as the General Sir John Kothalaula Defense University. By then, His Excellency the President of Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Mahinda Rajapaksa. Since 2009, I must make a special mention about the guidance and immense contribution made by His Excellency the President of Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, as the Secretary to the Ministry of Defense then and the Chairman of the Board of Management, KDU, kept a giant leap forward to become a fully fledged university with 9 academic faculties and a university hospital with the state-of-the-art facilities. That is the one and only university hospital in Sri Lanka, and we are also having planned to establish 2 more faculties in the forthcoming year, that is Faculty of Criminal Justice and Faculty of Technology. With this phenomenal change, the KDU began expanding its horizon to provide its high-quality higher educational opportunities to civilian students, which was a novel idea then, to get the civil students also to study along with the cadets, thereby reducing the burden on the state universities of the country, giving higher educational opportunities for more than 1,000 day scholars per year. Today, the university is ready to march forward steadfastly, contributing to national needs, combining the national security domain with higher education needs of the country. Ladies and gentlemen, KDU International Research Conference has been attracting local and foreign presenters, participants, and more importantly, renowned scholars and professionals of the highest caliber, both locally and internationally. However, in this year, the global pandemic situation has restricted having them physically present at KDU. Otherwise, usually more than 25 scholars from other universities, including defense universities, used to participate in this conference. But many of our invitees will join us online to enrich the deliberations through this novel experience of having the conference on a virtual platform. I reckon that this is a blessing in disguise for us to travel on a trodden path for new discoveries. KDU IRC has been instrumental in establishing and strengthening the much-needed research culture, not only at KDU, but also in the whole country. We have been attracting papers from almost all universities, from many research institutions and other organizations, locally and internationally, and representing even North and East provinces, which I reckon is a very encouraging sign. And the impact of growing research culture was evident during the first breakout of COVID-19 early this year, where our staff and students were researching day and night for creating various products and inventions of our own to help to fight the COVID-19 pandemic in Sri Lanka. So it is heartening to note that this year's conference, there are many research papers reaching the conference secretariat, which involve the student community of our 9 faculties and other universities too, including foreign. Therefore, we are proud that we have created a platform for emerging researchers and scientists for showcasing their research outcomes at KDU Research Conference. And it is our fervent belief that inculcating and fostering the research culture and enhancing the quality and quantity of research in various disciplines in the country can raise the resilience levels of society and the nation as a whole. This year's conference has attracted 650 plus submissions, which I believe is a very clear indication of the right enthusiasm growing in the country towards research, particularly in the development and security domains. So we are proud as a university to be able to stand up resolutely to fulfill the needs of the nation, especially at a time when such efforts are much needed. I believe the efforts of security-based education aiming at strengthening the national development should be more cooperative in the future, and KDU has always facilitated any research efforts that strengthen the national security framework of our nation. We urge the academic community, both local and overseas, to join hands with us in our future endeavors to support the nation, especially through productive research in diverse disciplines. The organizers of the KDU International Research Conference intend to set the tone to initiate more collaborative research at national and global levels. This research conference is an ideal platform to make the connections. I hope that authors of KDU and various other local and international universities will take the opportunity to interact and develop friendly relationships, establish networks, and to explore win-win situations. I wish all the very best for presenters and hope you will enjoy every moment of this academic fusion taking place on 2 whole days, that is today and tomorrow. I also take this opportunity to appreciate the contribution made by the Secretary of Defense, Major General Kamal Gunratna, as the chairman of the Board of Management, and the Tri-Service Commanders, Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva, Army Commander, as well as the Defense Chief of Defense Staff, Vice Admiral Nishantha Ulungitanna, Commander of the Navy, and Air Marshal Sumangala Dias, Commander of the Air Force, being the board members of the Board of Management and Additional Secretary, Mr. Sarath Nonis. Their contribution towards the development of KDU is much appreciated, and we extend our warm regards, though they are not available today at this conference. I wish that presenters and participants, and also I would like to thank the Deputy Vice Chancellor Defense, Brigadier Nanda Hathur Singh, and Professor Jayant Arratna, DVC Academics, and Dr. Pradeep Kalansurya, the Conference Chair and Secretary, Mr. Sanath De Silva, and their team, and all staff at KDU in organizing this event successfully, focusing on various aspects, and especially under trying conditions. Finally, let me once again welcome our chief guest and the keynote speaker and other distinguished guests on behalf of the KDU staff. I wish that presenters and participants would have all the courage to continue their pursuit with determination to link up with international community to work towards national growth and development through their research. Thank you. Good luck. Stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to the most significant event of the day.
We would like to humbly invite Professor Jayant Aryaratne, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics, to introduce the chief guest of this inaugural session.
A very good morning to all of you. Secretary to the Ministry of Education, Professor Kapila Perera, Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolamage, Additional Secretary to the Ministry of Defense, Mr. Sarath Nonis, the Vice Chancellor, General Sir John Kotalawala Defense University, Major General Milinda Piris, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Defense, Brigadier Nanda Hathur Singh, the Deans, senior professors, directors, senior military officers, academics, administrative staff members, students, and all the distinguished guests who have linked with us online. Ladies and gentlemen, we all are exceedingly fortunate today to have an eminent academic, a versatile orator, and a highly respected political figure as our chief guest. Professor G.L. Piris is not at all a stranger to the KDU. It is with a great sense of gratitude that we remember him as a true friend of the KDU because of his active participation in our important academic activities without any hesitation whenever invited. Professor Piris undoubtedly has been a tower of strength to the KDU as a sincere admirer of our rapid progress. Professor Gamini Lakshman Piris, a former Vice Chancellor of the University of Colombo, obtained his Doctor of Philosophy from the University of Oxford in 1971. He has also held the position of the Dean of the Faculty of Law, University of Colombo. Professor Piris is a Rhodes Scholar of the Oxford University from 1968 to 1971, a visiting fellow of the All Souls College, the University of Oxford from 1980 to 1981, a distinguished visiting fellow of the Christ College, the University of Cambridge, and a Smuts visiting fellow at the University of Cambridge from 1985 to 1986. Further to his illustrious academic career, Professor G.L. Piris is a well-known political figure in Sri Lanka. He has been a member of parliament since 1994. He has held several ministerial portfolios, such as the Minister of External Affairs, Minister of Export Development and International Trade, Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Minister of Ethnic Affairs and National Integration, Minister of Enterprise Development, Investment Promotion and Industrial Policy, to name a few. Professor Piris has also been the chairman of the All-Party Parliamentary Committee on Constitutional Reforms and the leader of the government delegation in 6 rounds of talks with the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam from September 2002 to March 2003. Professor G.L. Piris is presently the Ministry of Education. Ladies and gentlemen, I now most cordially invite the chief guest of the 13th International Research Conference of the General Sir John Kothawala Defence University, Professor G.L. Piris, to deliver his address. Thank you.
Major General Melinda Piris, Vice Chancellor of the Sir John Kothawala Defence University of Sri Lanka, Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolambage, Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Professor Kapila Pereira, Secretary to the Ministry of Education, Deputy Vice Chancellors, Deans of Faculties, Heads of Department, members of the staff and students of this university, friends, well-wishers, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to be present with you on this occasion for the 13th International Research Conference. I am no stranger to these surroundings. I have been consistently associated with your work during the progress of your university until you have reached the stature that we are all proud of at this time. There's no doubt that with the 9 fully fledged faculties that you already have, your plans further to expand this university, particularly bearing in mind the priorities of this country at this moment, I'm particularly happy about your plans for the establishment of a faculty of criminal justice. I think that is certainly an area that is worthy of focus and attention. So you have always assessed, evaluated very accurately the needs and priorities of our country in the field of higher education, and you have been very quick to respond to those needs. That innovative approach is much to be admired, and these are among the reasons why I have particular pleasure in joining you in these deliberations. There's one other matter that I would like to mention. It is this, that you are having this conference for the 13th consecutive time. It is our experience in this country that many good things are planned and inaugurated. It is much more difficult to follow through. So the fact that you have been able to do this without interruption for 13 years, adding to your expertise as you go along, improving, expanding the contours of what you are attempting. This is greatly to be admired, that sense of perseverance and determination is greatly required in this country at this moment. And your own performance is an inspiring example of what we all need to carry the country forward to even greater heights. Now, the theme that you have chosen for this 13th International Conference is extremely appropriate from many points of view. You have here representation from many countries. As Major General Milind Piris, Vice Chancellor, explained to us a moment ago, you are holding this conference in exceedingly challenging circumstances. Again, you have been able to adapt to difficult circumstances. You are resorting to modern technology to include and involve foreign participants in these deliberations, even though they are unable to be present with us physically on this occasion. The topic that you have chosen is a holistic approach to national growth and security. I think that is extremely relevant to present-day needs in Sri Lanka today. The first point I would like to make is that there is an intimate connection between national growth and security. It is fanciful to talk of any kind of national growth without the assurance of security. Security is the necessary and indispensable foundation. Without security, it is impossible to achieve growth in any sector of the economy. The celebrated political scientist, the late Professor Harold Lasky of the London School of Economics, said that the basic duty of a state is to provide security for its people. That is the ultimate reason for the existence of the nation state. The theory of the social contract, which has been developed by writers like Locke and Rousseau, emphasizes the fact that the public have given authority to the state principally for the reason to create conditions in which life can go on in an orderly and tranquil manner, so that the citizens of that state can realize their fullest potential as human beings, develop themselves, develop the community in which they live. In order to do this, the essential condition is security. Without it, nothing at all can be accomplished. Now, we have seen empirical evidence of this in the recent past of our country. Through the 30-year conflict with the liberation tigers of Tamil Eelam, it was impossible to attract substantial investment into this country. Every facet of Sri Lanka's economy suffered grievously during that period. How can you attract investors into a country which is being torn asunder by a ferocious war? Investment, international trade, all this was affected by the ongoing conflict. I would also like to make reference to the concept of reconciliation, which became very relevant and important after the end of the war in 2009. There was then, naturally, the feeling that we have to leave the pain and anguish of the war behind us. We have to emphasize unity and solidarity and bring together all the people of our cherished land, irrespective of caste, creed, ethnic or religious identity, to emphasize the oneness of this nation. That was the pith and substance of the concept of reconciliation. But it all went wrong. during the Yahapalana administration of 2015 to 2019. And it is worth examining in an objective spirit the reasons why that endeavor failed so miserably. I think the basic reason is that the authorities at that time forgot the sentiments, the feelings, and the aspirations of the majority community. Reconciliation, of course, places emphasis on minority aspirations to make them comfortable, to convey to them in definite terms the impression, the conviction that they are very much a part of the country. They belong. There's a sense of belonging. So that confidence has to be imparted to the minorities. At the same time, it is absolutely necessary to carry the majority community with you. If you leave them behind, if you engender in the minds of the majority community that they are not important, they can be sidelined and forgotten about, they do not matter, such an exercise in reconciliation is doomed to failure, as the empirical experience of those 4 years convincingly demonstrated. What happened during that period? I think the most alarming spectacle that we are seeing in this country today is the evidence that is transpiring on a daily basis before the Presidential Commission that is going into the phenomenon, the catastrophic phenomenon of the Easter Sunday carnage. Evidence that is being given by one witness after another. The Inspector General of Police, the then Secretary to the President, the Secretary of Defense, all these people. The evidence emphasizes the total breakdown of the security apparatus in the country. It was not a mere debilitation or a weakening of the security apparatus, it was a total collapse of it. There was no security apparatus functioning in this country at all in any realistic sense. So it is that led to the loss of 265 valuable lives in this country and the crippling of many other citizens of our land. Why did this happen? When the present President, His Excellency Gotabaya Rajapaksa, was Secretary to the Ministry of Defense, there was very close collaboration between the intelligence arm and immigration. Whenever an application was made by a foreign preacher, somebody who wanted to come and teach in this country, when a visa was requested, a very thorough background check was done. As Admiral Professor Jayanath Columbage would bear witness, the antecedents of the person applying for the visa was thoroughly examined. And if there was anything unsavory in the past of that person, if he had been involved in any activity which led to disharmony among communities, then the immigration authority, in close consultation with the intelligence arm, would turn down such a request for a visa in this country. That whole apparatus was consciously and deliberately dismantled. It didn't happen unwittingly or inadvertently. It was deliberate government policy. So the intelligence personnel were made to feel that they were an embarrassment. The less that was heard from them, the less they were seen, the better. That was the environment which prevailed at that time. Surely, if you're talking of national growth and security, the first thing to ensure is that funds that are coming from abroad have to be brought into the country through proper channels. We have in this country such an established conduit. The conduit is the External Resources Department of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Of course, these resources are welcome, but they must come through the External Resources Department. We must know the source, the origin of these funds. Where are these funds coming from? We must know the purpose for which these resources are going to be applied. Who is going to manage these resources? There must be audited accounts. All of this was dispensed with. You then have a situation where a university, or what purports to be a university, comes up in Kathankudi. The facilities, the buildings that are constructed there are better than the buildings that you have here at the Kothalawala Defence University. They are superior to the quality of the infrastructure in the universities of Colombo and Peradeniya. If you go to Kathankudi blindfolded, and if the blindfold is taken off when you get there, you would feel that you were in the Middle East. The Palmyra trees, the architecture, the overall environment. The sums of money involved are colossal. But all of this is shrouded in secrecy. There is no exposure, visibility, or accountability. It is that that brought about a situation that culminated in the total collapse of the security establishment. Madrasas came all over the country. They're not Sunday schools, they provide instruction, many of them, on a daily basis. Nobody examines the curricula. There's no regulatory mechanism at all. So the seeds of racial hatred are sown in those institutions. Of course, there must be freedom with regard to the imparting of instruction, but clearly there must be some supervision, some control, some regulation. That was totally lacking. So the country then paid the supreme price for the neglect of security in pursuit of narrow and partisan political objectives to placate aggressive minorities, not law-abiding members of minority communities, but people who were intent on the destruction of the very social fabric of the country. So that was our sad experience. This was true not only within the country, but in the conduct of our foreign relations. What happened there? Sri Lanka is unique among the nations of this world in committing to a resolution in 2015 in the Human Rights Council. Sri Lanka became a co-sponsor of a resolution condemning its own armed forces, accusing its armed forces of the gravest crimes under international law and under international humanitarian law, because the preamble to Resolution 30/1 of the 1st of September 2015 acknowledged with appreciation the report of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. And the High Commissioner's report makes the most damaging allegations against the armed forces of this country. And the government of Sri Lanka endorsed all of that and called for a thorough investigation at the international level. The resolution gave responsibility to the Human Rights Council and to the Commissioner for Human Rights to keep Sri Lanka under constant review. So here was a government which consciously, voluntarily, deliberately submitted the country to adjudication and assessment in respect of its armed forces to international tribunals. Just consider the enormity of what happened. There were pledges given in resolutions 30/1 and 34/1, which are clearly contrary to the highest law of this country, the Constitution of Sri Lanka. Operative para 6 of the first resolution, 30/1, recommended that foreign judges, Commonwealth and other foreign judges, should be entrusted with the task of judging our armed forces and, of course, members of the civilian population. This is not possible under Sri Lanka's constitution because foreigners cannot exercise judicial power in respect of our citizens. The then High Commissioner for Human Rights, Prince Hussain, publicly conceded that in respect of no other country has a Human Rights Council based in Geneva adopted so intrusive an approach, so intrusive, interfering directly with domestic policy in that country. To what extent did this go? The resolutions involved matters which are clearly within the domain of the Sri Lankan parliament, not the business of foreigners. It called for constitutional reform. It called for the devolution of greater powers to provincial councils. It called for a thorough overhaul of Sri Lanka's armed forces and the police. It called for the repeal of the Prevention of Terrorism Act and its replacement by alternative legislation. Members of the Sri Lankan armed forces and the Sri Lankan police force were to be subjected to special criteria when they applied to join UN peacekeeping forces abroad, and even to enroll for programs of training. So this is the extent to which national dignity and pride was compromised in order to placate foreign interests whose aims and objectives were incompatible with the well-being of this nation. So this attitude, which destroyed the very foundations of our national security, manifested itself both in respect of domestic policy and the conduct of the country's foreign relations during that period, 2015 to 2019. In such a situation, you cannot possibly have national growth, you cannot have economic advancement, because security has broken down entirely. Just one other point I would like to make before I conclude, and that is the reference to militarization in the current political discourse. Non-governmental organizations and elements of the opposition, as well as some prejudiced and biased foreign commentators, are finding fault with the role of the military in the conduct of national affairs in Sri Lanka at this time. They're trying to sound a note of caution against an increasing role for the military in the conduct of Sri Lanka's affairs. But no objective observer of the Sri Lankan scene can doubt the fact that when it came to the control of COVID-19, this country could not possibly have achieved what it did without the vigorous involvement and cooperation of the armed forces, particularly the intelligence arm. We were able to control the pandemic because the armed forces were able to identify those who had been infected. First the immediate circle and then the outer periphery. That is still being done. Yesterday, today, it is being done. And the role of the armed forces is indispensable. Without it, the situation would be far, far worse than it is. Why is there this kind of hostile attitude to the armed forces? I think the people who subscribe to that point of view fail to distinguish between the culture of East and West in this regard. Cultural attitudes, assumptions, and values are of critical significance in this area. The attitude in this country, the attitude of the public, of ordinary people to the armed forces, is not what prevails in some Western countries. The armed forces are not looked upon with fear. They are not regarded as instruments of oppression. On the contrary, after the war ended in 2009, it is a fact that the armed forces they got involved very intimately, vigorously in uplifting the social conditions of the people in the affected areas. They built houses. They made water available. They played a role in the resuscitation of agriculture. And I know personally, because I've seen with my own eyes, that the armed forces of this country even helped in the construction of latrines, of toilets in that part of the country. These are not regular functions of the armed forces. But because of the culture of our country, the social mores, the value system based upon empathy and compassion, which is a hallmark of Sri Lanka's culture, that was the nature of the role that was performed by the Sri Lankan military. It is this fundamental fact that is not taken into account in critics of the present scene who find fault with the armed forces for getting involved in national activity on a broader scale. So these are some of the remarks that I would like to make to you on this occasion. I'm very happy that you're having this 13th International Research Conference. I'm very happy that you have chosen a topic that is extremely appropriate. You could not have chosen a more relevant topic at this time. As a Minister of Education, also with responsibility for higher education in this country, I'm very proud of the achievements of your institution. Look back on what you have been able to accomplish within so brief a time span. The needs of higher education in this country are very urgent. More and more people are clamoring for access to higher education. In our ministry, with the active assistance of Professor Kapila Perera, who's rendering yeoman service in that regard, we are trying to bridge the gap between education and employment opportunity. We are talking to the major chambers of commerce, the providers of jobs in the private sector, to ascertain from them the employment opportunities that will be available in their institutions during the next 3 or 4 years. What are the skills which they are looking for? Because they are telling me, it's not that we don't have jobs to offer, we have jobs. But when we interview people, we find that they don't have the skills which we want in our institutions. So we do not want to enhance a reservoir of angry and frustrated young people. We want to ensure that there is correlation between the education that is imparted in our institutions and the skills for which there is an identifiable demand in the marketplace. So these are some of the adventures that we have embarked upon. We are also looking critically at our curricula, which are obsolete and anachronistic. They have not been revisited for a very long period. They must be in line with the needs of our society. Methods of teaching. There's far too much emphasis on rote learning, on memory. The students are required to commit their notes to memory, retain that in their memory, and reproduce it at examination. That is the antithesis of education. Education comes from the Latin word educare, which means to draw out, not to force in a vast volume of factual material into the mind of the student. So the purpose of education is to develop the analytical and the critical faculty of the student, to encourage him or her to think for himself or herself, and to apply that volume of knowledge to face the challenges of life. So in the midst of all this, in confronting these formidable challenges, I have every confidence that your institution, the Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, will render an invaluable service. So I congratulate you on your achievements of the past. I wish you well for the future. I know that you will continue to do your country proud. And I thank you sincerely for the honor that you have bestowed upon me by inviting me as chief guest for these deliberations. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. Knowledge is the key to understanding the conflicts we face every day, to find solutions and look into the future with optimism and resolution.
Ladies and gentlemen, to aspire this international platform of knowledge and exploration, we humbly invite Brigadier Sylvester Pereira, RSP, USP, PSC, the Dean, Faculty of Defense and Strategic Studies, to introduce the keynote speaker of this inaugural session of the 13th International Research Conference.
Chief Guest, Professor G.L. Piris, Honorable Minister of Education, Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolambage, Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Major General Milinda Piris, Vice Chancellor, General Sir John Kotalal Defence University, Major General Manika Surya, Commandant Sri Lanka Army Volunteer Force, Brigadier Nanda Haturu Singh, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Defence and Administration, Professor Jayantha R. Ratna, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, Deans of Faculties, Directors, Senior Military Officers, academic staff and administrative staff, students, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my honor and privilege to introduce Senior Professor Kapila Perera, Secretary to the Ministry of Education, to the audience. Professor Perera is not a stranger to General Sir John Kotalal Defence University, as he is an alumnus of this university. Prior to his academic career, he has served in the Sri Lanka Navy for a decade and retired as a lieutenant commander. He graduated from the University of Moratuwa with a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering with first-class honors in 1986, whilst being an officer cadet at the General Sir John Kotalal Defence Academy. He then moved to University of California, USA on a postgraduate scholarship which was awarded by the government of Sri Lanka, and achieved a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering in 1989. Thereafter, Professor Perera earned his Doctor of Philosophy in Mechanical Engineering from the same university. Professor Perera commenced his tenure at the Department of Mechanical Engineering, University of Moratuwa in 1995. He subsequently became a professor of mechanical engineering at the University of Moratuwa in 2008. He has held many key appointments during his illustrious academic career, such as the Director, Staff Development Center, University of Moratuwa, Co-Lead Consultant, Faculty of Technology, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, Co-Lead Consultant, Faculty of Technology, University of Kelaniya, University Grant Commission Appointed Coordinator, Faculty of Engineering, Southeastern University of Sri Lanka, and Dean, Faculty of Engineering, University of Moratuwa. Prior to his present appointment, Senior Professor Kapila Perera was the Vice Chancellor of the University of Moratuwa, and he is currently Secretary to the Ministry of Education. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Professor Kapila Perera, Secretary to the Ministry of Education, to deliver the keynote address. Sir, over to you.
Ayubowan, Wanakam, Assalamu alaikum. The Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotalal Defence University, Major General Milinda Piris, the Chief Guest today, my Honorable Minister, Minister of Education, Honorable Professor G.L. Piris, Deputy Vice Chancellors, Deans of the faculties, heads of the departments, the Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Professor Admiral Jayanath Kolambage, all the foreign participants who are joining, this 13th International Research Conference at KDU. All the presenters, moderators, session chairs, and all the distinguished invitees, thank you very much for inviting me to deliver the keynote speech under the theme, Holistic Approach to National Growth and Security. I am indeed honored and privileged to be here, having witnessed the very first one 13 years ago, and it happens to be General Milind Peris, who was then also a Major General, who was witnessing, and the presence of the chief guest as the Minister of Higher Education and Minister of Research and Technology. I would like to start with this quote from the chief guest. We do not want to have a reservoir of angry, uncontented people. I, for one, having gone through in 1971, of course not in the country in 88, 89, and then 83 as a university student, and many times during my academic career where there were disruptions to education, holding back the desire to fulfill or acquire knowledge with my colleagues, peers, and rest of the people due to the lack of security. I know how I felt then as a student. I think it was in grade 4, April the 5th in 1971. And then in 1983, in my second year, at this very same premises, that the education of ours was disrupted, and the feeling of that delays due to the lack of security. And the chief guest elaborated in deep sense of comprehension how security is important for the national growth. If I look at what is this traditional approach that is often based on defensive security policies, as we had during my time at different ages, we had always defensive security policies. However, the possession of strong security measures generates an insecure feeling. I hope you agree with me. If there is a strong security measures, that generates insecure feeling, as it reveals the presence of threats. So these are some of the things that people quote. Then again, the democracy, well-being, and freedom, they are some of the elements that we feel that we reduce this feeling of or reduction of insecurity by reducing both threats and the activities that we feel. And then we have this sense of insecurity. Even if you take a house, if you feel this insecureness due to lack of security, this mind will not allow you to think, generate analytical skills. So you're always worried about the security, how to provide security for your children, security for yourselves. And then it hinders and it slows down entire process of nurturing, acquiring knowledge, and then that is halting the growth. So if you start from the small households or individuals, then if you take as a whole a family, a village, a township, and then provinces, as a country, it basically retards the national growth. So therefore, we need to have this thinking of holistic approach to national growth. And as you and I understand, there are necessary and essential conditions when we learn mathematics for certain things. The chief guest emphasized repeatedly the essential elements, and in our academic mathematics, there are sufficient and necessary conditions or essential conditions for proofs in mathematical theories. There are certain things. Likewise, it is essential security for national growth. When it comes to the economic, always and even for decades, the GDP strongly criticized the measure of development. Still, the rules of economic systems, neglecting the global goal of capabilities and expansion, halts this economic growth or a national growth. But the conception of development based on the glorification of individual success and the pushed capital accumulation hardly allows reducing insecurity and increasing freedom. So security becomes an individual good and relies upon ineffective defensive policies that we have practiced in the past, unlike in the present. So development, well-being, security and freedom are strictly interrelated. Individual capabilities imply collective capabilities. Even in free market economies, often the human needs such as food, housing, employment, healthcare, family policies, fresh water, security, and safety can be put in a market under regulation or collective governance. And those things, even the chief guest highlighted, the need for water, need for food, how the security, food security and the water security ensured the getting this national security. When you combine all these types of securities for the national growth under the war conditions. So these goods are often under political debate as they are critical for development and social cohesion. The more they are shared among the large parts of the population, the less we experience social conflict, political instability. security hardly is achievable individually. It is the result of more holistic thinking. Individual security and freedom implies the security and freedom of all. As I mentioned before, these are interrelated. And if you look at, or if you study research, and in future research, all these studies can help in understanding human capabilities and pathways towards collective security and enhanced development. So instances of participation in the definition of security needs would make citizens able to feel at center of development goals. So therefore, unlike in the past where we did not think holistically and the interrelations between the security and the national growth, then we will fail. Even the theories in the literature highlights this one. As far as Sri Lanka is concerned, the contemporary security concerns that we face as an Indian Ocean country are broader and more complex, that need not be elaborated, than at any stage in our history. This will continue to exist. We can't say that this will stop today, tomorrow, next year, in 10 years' time. No. Because the geopolitics and the race for the arms business and economic development, all these things will continue to grow, sometimes exponentially. So therefore, national security cannot be neglected and cannot be just let it go, as the chief guest mentioned, even in a fraction of a second, it is very important. Otherwise, there won't be any growth. As a Secretary to the Education, in the present context, the role play by ensuring a secure environment for the student to go and sit the examination. They are not in a position to concentrate answering the questions if the place is not secure. So if we are not able to hold the exams and continue to postpone, then we cannot achieve and we cannot predict national growth. So in this context, the role play by the national security is to be commended as the Ministry of Education. I know personally the quick response to ensure the secure examination center for all of us, not only the future of the Sri Lanka, the parents, society. Under these conditions, even the COVID 33rd what do you call the identification of the COVID origin in the recent past, you have to have a peace of mind to concentrate on everything. So that is basically, if you only think of one place, one center out of 2,646 examination centers, then there will be lack of security in a different center. So therefore, you have to think holistically. Only the one aspect of security in one place will not enable for us to continue this one, and therefore the results will come in future, these drawbacks in terms of national growth. So the range from concerns arising from threats to systems that allow society to control intergroup and interpersonal conflict to more recently reorganized concerns associated with threats to social and economic systems. Once these events start to influence the policy and economy of a country, if the national resilience levels are weak, that country will perish. One way of addressing this emerging situation is by promoting more and more research and development. KDU, boasting with diverse 9 faculties and 2 faculties once again diverse, one is criminal law, other one is technology, going to expand and provide opportunities and platforms for you to think, ponder in a military environment, and inviting day scholars, giving the signal that it is very important for you to mix each other, understand the role of the military or the security for the civilians, 22 million of people in this country, how important the national security and the training in a military setup to achieve the common goal, the national growth. So the KDU is at the forefront of researching the development and security related problems holistically. A holistic approach is needed to understand contemporary complex situations and circumstances. University education could inculcate core values of security and development, such as human dignity and integrity, democratic participation, sustainable development, economic equity, mutual understanding and respect, and equality of opportunity. The 3 flags or few flags that are behind brings all 3 forces together. Thanks to the KDA then, and how important this mutual understanding in the war helped to coordinate things in a better manner. Because you are trained together and you understand the security roles in the air, at sea, on land. I am sure it could have become a catalyst then. Now you bring the third aspects, the day scholars. So this is holistic thinking. Like I started at the beginning, it was not there. We had 3 academies, did not know each other. But how handy it came during the national security at risk. So ultimately, the beneficiary is national growth. The Honorable Minister, the Chief Guest, mentioned how difficult it was for Sri Lanka to attract foreign direct investment. As I think Minister of Enterprise Development, Foreign Minister, Foreign Secretary, if you don't have a secure trust, nobody would come. But when you train together, military with civilians in hand, it would provide the ideal platform. The importance of civil-military relations and how KDU is instrumental in developing the above-mentioned areas is to be commended. By promoting civil-military relations through education, a country could raise the resilience levels, like I mentioned, of communities. Honorable Secretary, Honorable Minister spoke at length, elaborated. You have to have a strong commitment and the political will to ensure security of this country. If these elements, instruments fail, first thing that is going to affect is the education of the future generations. Even for me, the Oxford graduate, Rhodes Scholar, I am a pupil. And this has provided opportunities. And it's the responsibility of the government to ensure security. So all spheres of activity will simultaneously grow, ultimately culminating in national growth. These are a few of the thoughts that I have to share with you. I would like to extend my gratitude on behalf of the Ministry of Education for having me and inviting me to deliver the keynote and set the platform for the next 2 days of deliberations. And I wish all the success in the deliberations and creating more networks and have future directions for years to come in this context of national security that you have chosen today. Whatever you are going to do, there is national security at the forefront. So divide, we lose. Together, we win. And I wish all the very best. And thank you very much for all the participants and the people who have submitted papers, presenters, moderators, session chairs. You are playing a very important role in this context of national security and the growth, national growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, now it is time to appreciate the chief guest and the keynote speaker who are present here in this occasion at our invitation to share their valuable thoughts with this audience.
To do the honors, we cordially invite Major General Milinda Pires, the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, accompanied by Lieutenant Colonel Dhammika Adhikari, the Adjutant of KDU, to the stage.
May I now invite the chief guest for the 13th International Research Conference of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, Honorable Minister Professor G.L. Pires, to receive the token of appreciation for your valuable time and presence here with us today. Thank you, sir.
May I cordially invite the Secretary to the Ministry of Education, Professor Kapila Pereira, the keynote speaker of the 13th International Research Conference of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, to receive the token of appreciation.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, as we reach the end of the inaugural session of the 13th International Research Conference of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, let us humbly invite Dr. Pradeep Kalansurya, the conference chair of the International Research Conference 2020, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Professor J.L. Piris, Honorable Minister of Education, Professor Kapila Pereira, Secretary to the Ministry of Education, Admiral Professor Janat Kolambage, Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellors, Deans, Directors, Senior Professors, Senior Military Staff, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, all of you. It is with great appreciation and gratitude that I present this vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee of the 13th International Research Conference of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University. First of all, I convey my heartiest thanks to Professor G.L. Piris, Honorable Minister of Education, a distinguished academic who spared his valuable time to be present with us on this occasion. Sir, your gracious presence amidst busy schedules is truly an encouragement, and it certainly added the glamour and value to this important event. Professor Kapila Pereira, the Secretary to the Ministry of Education, also a distinguished academic and a senior military officer, is a proud product from our own institute. Sir, I greatly appreciate your willingness without any hesitation to be our keynote speaker today. I would also like to take this opportunity to extend my appreciation and gratitude to the Vice Chancellor, Major General Milinda Piris, for all his guidance and assistance provided throughout the event, and this event wouldn't have been a reality and a great success without your courageous leadership under the current challenging situation today. I would be failing in my duties if I don't mention the exceptional support and assistance provided by the two Deputy Vice Chancellors who were there behind the team guiding us through difficult time. I also would like to thank the deans of all faculties who shared responsibilities and guided their staff amidst their very busy schedules. Ladies and gentlemen, as you witness, this was a new experience in the new normal after the present pandemic, and therefore it was a huge challenge to organize, coordinate, and conduct research conference of this magnitude on virtual platform, enabling a wider participation of both local and foreign participants. I thank all our participants attending to the conference online despite numerous difficulties encountered due to the present situation. Further, it is with great pleasure that I acknowledge the tremendous support and assistance provided by the academic staff of all the faculties, with all the head of the departments going beyond their regular duties to make this event a success. Similarly, I take this opportunity to appreciate the contribution of the administrative and non-academic staff whose commitment was essentially required in achieving the overall success. Last but not the least, the officer cadets and day scholars who formed a very vital component of the organizing teams in every sphere, and I believe that it was a great learning experience and exposure which would help them tremendously in similar undertaking in the future. Finally, I have no doubt that all of these attending the 2-day seminar will make the best use of opportunity to enhance their horizons and establish new bonds and networking while sharing their knowledge and experience in a friendly learning environment. In conclusion, let me take this opportunity to profusely thank to my secretariats who stood alongside me throughout the extending unexplainable support and assistance with exceptional commitment. Thank you so much. I wish you good luck and all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Learning is nothing but a state of mind, a friendly, welcoming attitude towards change, reaching out for a change instead of waiting for it to reach you. Learning for practical men is an effort to do things better.
With that, we conclude the inaugural session of the 13th International Research Conference of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University. We invite you to join us through these important 2 days as we stride forward to reshape the future with a holistic approach to national growth and security.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem.
Sri Lanka, Namo, 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 Namo Mata. Sundara Siri Barini, Surandi Ati Sobhamana Lanka. Dana Danaya Nekamal Palaturu Piri Jaya Bhumiya Ramya. Apahat Sapa Siri Seta Sadhana Jeevanaye Mata Tiriganu Mena Apavakti Puja Namo Namo Mata Apa Sri Lanka Namo 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 Mata Ubave Apa Vidya Shakti, apahad tula bhakti, apa aloke, apage anuprane, apa jeevana ve, apa muktiya obave, nav jeevana demine, nitina apa pupudu karan mata. Jnana veera vadavamina ragina yanu mena jaya bhumikara. Ikkamavakage daru kelabavina, yamu yamu vinopama. Prema vada samaveda duralata, namo namo
Ladies and gentlemen, we humbly invite the dignitaries, the chief guest, Honorable Professor G.L. Perez, the keynote speaker, Professor Kapila Pereira, Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolumbage, Major General Milinda Perez, the Vice Chancellor of General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University, the Deputy Vice Chancellors, Chair and the Co-Secretaries,